not echoing my own recording. That's the thing. Because I paused.
I do not and have never heard an echo.
In your entire life?
In my entire life. I'm deaf to echoes. I'm echo deaf. It's a very rare thing.
So going into canyons and stuff must be very boring for you, Jeffy.
I am not allowed near canyons. All bats have shunned me, and it's a life that I have to deal with. By the winds of Gonorrhea, this is episode 197 of the Insert Credit Show, a relentlessly on-track smorgasbord of video game topics addressed each week to a panel of experts. Those experts have 6 minutes to address each topic, with any time overage rebuked by the sound of a horrible buzzer. I'm Alex Jaffe, and the best prize that I've ever redeemed at an arcade was this kind of slippery tube which would fly out of your hands when you tried to squeeze it.
Slippery tube.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can beat a slippery tube for a thing that I won at an arcade, but man, what did I ever win? I've won like a little.
Well, what's your name, buddy?
Oh, hey, I'm Brandon Sheffield. How you doing? I forgot about that part. I keep forgetting that these days to say what my name is. But there was one thing I wanted to win. I wanted to win it because it was so ridiculous. It was like a motorcycle helmet that had Sonic airbrushed on it.
Oh, that sounds like a big ticket item.
Because, yeah, that was like 50,000 tickets or something like that. I didn't win it. Probably the best thing I've ever won was like a spider ring. But hey, spider rings are pretty cool.
Joining us this week from the UK, while Frank is away on assignment once more, is Mathew Kumar.
Hello. Yeah, I mean, I'm not on assignment in the UK. I'm just here, seeing family and going to weddings and shit like that. The best thing I've ever won, obviously I want to say flick comb that looks like a flick knife. I've done that a couple of times. That's always a classic of quality.
That's the boss one.
Absolutely the best thing has to be that before Redondo Beach Fun Fair shut down, I made a point to go there on a pilgrimage to win one of the hundreds of talking Dennis Miller action figures they had for like 60 tickets. They had hundreds of them. The entire fun fair was shutting down, and I just played like the horse, rolling the ball at the horse thing game, and the one we spraying water in their clown's mouth until for like 10 minutes to get enough points to just, honestly, they should just be giving them away. It really is a terrible object. He says racist things. Dennis Miller sucks, but it's a cool object to own and a lovely memory.
You can't win if you don't play, Chachi.
Is that what Dennis Miller's supposed to sound like?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
Was,
well, yeah, I mean, his talking doll sounds kind of
But it was racist.
But it was
racist,
But
yeah.
you could tell it was racist.
Yeah.
Also joining us, new transplant to London, the founder of Idle Thumbs and a video game designer and composer in his own right. He's worked as an editor at Gamasutra, and now he's on this podcast, truly the pinnacle of his career. Chris Remo is here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Chris.
You gotta answer the prompt.
Do you have an answer to the prompt?
I don't know that I've ever had the experience of redeeming any sort of thing at an arcade.
Did you go to the Musée Mécanique in San Francisco?
Oh, I actually never did. That was one of those things I always... No, you know what? I guess I have been inside it.
You should have gotten a flattened penny, is what you should have done, and then you could have said that.
Oh, I have done that. You know
There
what?
you go.
I've done that a number of times in my life. So I suppose by virtue of being possibly the only thing I've ever redeemed in an arcade, the best thing I've ever redeemed in an arcade would be a flattened penny.
Who started that? Who decided that a thing that people would want was a penny they couldn't use anymore?
It's a good question.
Even the flattened penny I got from the arcade isn't even the best flattened penny I've had, because when I was a child, I would make those by putting pennies on railway tracks
Right.
and letting the train flatten them, and that's obviously cooler.
My assumption is that that's where it came from. In San Francisco cable car stops, you can get a flattened penny, and it's because people were putting pennies on the tracks, and someone was like, this is a business opportunity.
That sounds extremely plausible. And they were right.
Yeah, they were right. I've spent quarters on those pennies that you then can't use. It's like spending money to make money unusable is the most capitalistic thing that you can possibly do.
I mean, it's simultaneously the most and least capitalist thing you can do, which is impressive.
Right, you're
Yeah, that's
destroying
true.
currency, but you're paying for the privilege to do it.
Yeah.
So, what I haven't told you about this show, Chris,
Uh-oh.
is that every single episode has a secret rubric that I judge throughout the recording of the episode to determine who's doing the best job. And by the end of the episode, I declare a winner. And the prize for winning is that you have to pick a topic for next week's episode.
Nice.
When you said the thing you haven't told me, I thought that was going to be the things you had in fact told me, and it was just sort of one of those things where we pretend that there was a thing you haven't told me and the audience thinks it's funny, but we all know that you told me, but you didn't in fact tell me that.
No,
so
I didn't
know
tell you
that.
this. We're genuine here on the Insert Credit Show. So this first question comes from our last winner, Jeff Gerstmann, who I think accidentally asked one of the first questions I've ever asked on this podcast,
Nice.
which is, what's the coolest vehicle to ever appear in a video game?
Well, I immediately thought the Warthog, but it's not the coolest vehicle to ever appear in a video game. But I do love flipping that thing around, bouncing it off of stuff, trying to get it into hallways where it's not supposed to be. It's not cool, but I've interacted with that thing a lot. The Pale Wing, Earth Defense Force, Pale Wing has that jetpack. I think that's pretty cool.
The jetpack a vehicle?
Does it count as a vehicle if it's attached to the protagonist all the time? Like, technically, it's not like she's born with it.
A vehicle is a thing used for transporting people or goods. So
Well,
I
sure.
would say yes, a jetpack counts as a vehicle.
Well, I like that one.
Yeah, I don't know why this came to my mind so quickly, but I've always loved the design of like shoot 'em up shooter ships, like, and the Vic Viper from Gradius always stands out in mind as a really cool looking spaceship. The thing that I always think about with the Vic Viper is that, see just the classic side-on pixel art of it, I cannot visually understand that image. I can understand when it moves and it tilts, and I'm like, that looks like the ship that's on the cover. But when it's just on the side, it looks kind of like a flying goose or something to me. I always think the part of it looks like a head and the wing in the air. And no matter how long I stare at it, and I have stared at it, I'm promising you right now, I have stared at that Vic Viper. I can never make it make visual sense to me.
It's a weird thing.
Reminds me of, I really like the R-type ships because they're kind of roundy.
Mm-hmm.
So like the classic R90 Ragnarok or whatever is the default ship. I don't know if that's the right one, where it's got this like slanted down cockpit that kind of looks like a hunched over vulture head, and it's got that chunky body. I like that one. What about that Minecraft, the minecart in Sonic? That's a dumb vehicle. It's not the coolest. Is Sonic a vehicle in Sonic R? No, he's not.
No.
Enemies of Sonic are technically vehicles because they transport little bunnies and squirrels and shit, right?
That's true.
Yeah, I guess they're like kind of mech suits in that way.
Are the Wipeout vehicles cool, or do they not count as being cool?
I think they're pretty cool. Like, I mean, they have all that, Designers Republic type design and stuff, like the Phasar and everything else. Like, they're pretty cool.
Triangles.
I mean, I just don't know whether this question's a problem is that, like, at this point in my life, like, whether something's cool or not just doesn't seem like something I spend a lot of time thinking about.
I'm struggling with this as well.
Yeah, coolness isn't why we play video games.
I mean, coolness is not necessarily the purview of 40-year-olds either.
Right.
The thing. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not like being like, this is cool and this isn't cool. Like, I mean, I don't know what cool actually is to someone who would be considered cool now, right? So, like, what's cool is like, I honestly couldn't tell you, Like, there's probably podcasts out there with like 13-year-olds on it, and they can definitely tell you what's cool and what isn't cool now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to say a Honda Prelude every time. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Is there a Honda Prelude that you can interact with in a video game? That's the coolest car. I mean, the coolest vehicle.
There probably is in a... Don't the Gran Turismo games have some like incredibly mundane cars? I mean, incredibly cool cars.
Hey, Honda Prelude is not an incredibly mundane car, Chris Remo.
I mean, it's all due to the licensing. I've always been really frustrated with the Forza games because they always have a very low quality selection of Hondas. Like, they don't dig into the Preludes and other stuff like that. Like, they tend to have like so many Fords, which I just there's not really a Ford that I like outside of maybe the Ford Fiesta from the 70s in the UK. But like, I've never seen it, for example, a third generation Prelude in a game, but they're probably in an early Tokyo Highway Battle or something like that.
Nobody respects the Hondas. It's very disconcerting to me.
Maybe it'll help us give an idea of what's considered a cool vehicle in a game if I drop this list here of rideable vehicles in Fortnite right now.
No, I don't think that'll help.
The first one is a shopping cart.
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. No, wait. How about the office chair in that? What was it called? Like Kung Fu Riders or something?
Kung Fu Rider? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good
something. In the Adamus Wave arcade game Dolphin Blue, you ride a dolphin. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but if we're counting animals, then it's the boar from Nier. Come on.
I like the boar from Nier, but is it cooler than a dolphin?
Yes.
I don't know.
You can drift with it. Can you drift with a dolphin?
Probably.
You could probably drift with a dolphin.
I mean, I feel like a dolphin could drift way better than a warthog.
Yeah, speaking of which, the coolest vehicle in a video game is the car from Outrun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a Ferrari. I don't like Ferraris more than Hondas.
I don't like Ferraris either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's closer to being the Hornet.
I mean, I would say, if anything, like I prefer the Lotus Esprit from Lotus Esprit Turbo Challenge on the Amiga.
Well, you would say that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
It is wild that many people in the UK, like, that is the super scalar game that they know. They don't know Outrun. They know Lotus.
Well, I felt really, really happy recently because on the drive down to Bath for this wedding, I saw an actual Lotus Esprit on the highway. I was like,
nice.
yes.
That's an Amiga.
All right, here's our next question. Are the Myst games still good? What should people play instead of Myst?
They were never good.
It almost feels as though the Myst games can't be compared to video games. They're almost like another category of interactive software that sort of just stopped existing.
Yeah.
There was a period of time when, I don't mean to start any kind of discussion about sort of like what is video game art or any of this stuff. That's not my intention whatsoever. But there was a period of time when
I don't buy it.
certain kinds of games got reviewed in New York Times and other incredibly mainstream publications. And I don't think it was any kind of sort of statement that those publications were making or anything. I think they just sort of reviewed things that felt to them like maybe it was in the, I don't know, emotional or cultural sphere that perhaps their readers might be interested in. And things like Myst would be the kinds of things that would end up in there. And I feel as though that's a sort of category of things that games could be just sort of stopped being explored after roughly the 90s.
You're saying they were missed opportunities, Chris.
That's precisely what I'm saying.
Deriving us to
Hey!
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, and it's not that I think that they're good or bad or anything. They're just, I feel as though it's almost impossible to compare Myst to other things and other sort of what we would generally consider video games, because I feel as though most of the ways in which you would criticize it on sort of game design grounds are almost irrelevant to the sort of emotional intention of Myst, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just not in any way trying to compete on the same grounds with what most video games are trying to do.
But I feel like there are probably indies that occupy a similar-ish space. Like I feel like the walking simulator, for lack of a better term, is something of an extension of that.
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah.
The Witness is a bit of a, like John Blow aside, is a bit of a missed opportunity.
The Witness, I think, is actually probably closer than walking simulators.
Yeah.
There's a sort of contemplative intelligentsia thing going on with those that isn't really, walking simulators don't really, and I say this as someone who's worked on more than one game that is considered a walking simulator, so it's not a negative thing, but walking simulators don't really ask anything of you intellectually. I don't mean that pejoratively whatsoever. I just mean that they're not puzzle games. Like they don't put walls in front of you and stop you from progressing. Yeah. But Myst and The Witness absolutely do. I mean, those are games that are sort of require a self-conscious level of sort of intellect in order to proceed. And that at times that can be very off-putting, but it's a type of experience that is largely unexplored. We had an entire realm of puzzle games that are this odd sort of arbitrary throw objects together and then a thing happens at the other end, which doesn't really bear anything in common with what I think most people on the planet outside of the realm of video games would understand a puzzle to be.
Isn't an adventure game essentially, it lacks the 3D space of Myst, but isn't an adventure game sort of in the same zone?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Those aren't really puzzles, though. They're typically these sort of odd combinatorial,
I guess so,
guessing games almost. Like they're not really puzzles in a logical sense. It's not like solving a Sudoku or something, which I guess Myst isn't either. But Myst, I think a lot of the things you do in Myst, someone who's not a video game player necessarily, but who's really into puzzles in a broader sense, their brain might sort of latch on to Myst or The Witness, I think, in a way that it wouldn't latch on to Monkey Island. And I say that as someone who loves Monkey Island. It's none of the things I'm saying are evaluative, but I do feel that they sort of need your brain to be in a fundamentally different kind of space. Was it Michael Brog?
Oh, Michael Brog.
Yeah, Michael Brog.
You guys know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, Michael Brog.
He I feel as though some of his work is in this space. And then similarly, like Steven's Sausage Roll. If that game existed in sort of a beautiful location, that would sort of be this kind of thing, if you know what I mean. It's almost a pure puzzle. It's sort of your brain is being stacked up against this challenge that is purely of the intellect.
I wanted to actually come at this from a slightly different angle. Actually, maybe slightly like Frank-esque angle. While he's not here, when he talks about stuff like I think it's a Habitat, LucasArts Habitat. He talks about how you can't really experience that game as it was experienced at the time, so it is playing it really that important. I always think like with Myst, like it sort of represents that era of the beginning of CD-ROMs and multimedia. And it's a really different context from where we live now because it was just at the beginning of the internet, but you couldn't get 600 megabytes, 650, 700 megabytes quickly, right? So what the internet became, there's this middle ground between like the pre-internet era and the post-internet era, basically, which is like the multimedia era. And the Myst slots into that along with all these other, even like a Microsoft Encarta CD. It's like the experience of
That's
Myst
a really good point.
Was getting probably your Sound Blaster branded or whatever CD drive, putting into your 486 or your 386 and loading up Myst and being like, wow, look at these rendered graphics. Now, it's basically a Macromedia Flash like slideshow, technically, but most of the things we were experiencing at that point but they were somehow mind-blowing because you were like, 650 megabytes, baby! I just can't imagine experiencing Myst in the correct context anymore.
I think that's a... Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
That's time was going to be the rest of my sentence.
All right. Your instincts are correct. That was time. Over on the Insert Credit forums at forums.insertcredit.com, appropriately enough, there's been some discussion about acoustic tracks in video games. But I'd like to ask, what kind of feeling or purpose can an acoustic guitar contribute to a game's soundtrack?
Or other instruments, even.
God, I hope an effective one, given that I've recorded a video game soundtrack that was like half.
I think they're the worst.
You think they're the worst, Brandon?
I was just saying that because Chris Remo's here.
Oh, okay, yeah. I thought you were being
and because
serious.
he's done so many of them. No, I'm not being serious. But I do think it's an interesting space to think about because it's such an analog thing in a medium that almost requires loops, Yeah,
that definitely.
I'm actually curious how you deal with that, Chris Remo.
I mean, I've used acoustic guitars on a few soundtracks, but most sort of I guess expansively on the Firewatch soundtrack, and I absolutely, for me, I mean, I know I'm not the kind of composer who you'd hire if you wanted someone to put together a bunch of really grand, epic sounding orchestral stuff. I just haven't done much of that sort of thing. Well, part of that is because it's not a skill set I've practiced very much. And then part of the reason I haven't practiced it very much is because I think I sort of react against that kind of thing. I don't really like the maximalist. I mean, I love orchestral music in its own right, but the context of video game soundtracks, I find it sort of overwhelming and slightly overused, and also underwhelming simultaneously.
Yeah,
it blends into the background in such a way.
Yeah, and so when I was certainly working on the Firewatch soundtrack and doing a lot of acoustic guitar, that game is set in a big open environment. It's actually a one contiguous environment, so it's sort of weirdly an open world game, even though it doesn't really necessarily present like one. I wanted to communicate sensation of solitude and loneliness and being outscaled by your environment. And I felt that one way to do that was with a soundtrack that orally is sort of small and intimate, because it sort of reinforces you're an individual person surrounded by the sort of majesty of nature. And you're right that the medium of games does sort of push against that kind of instrumentation because it does need to be looped. And there is a lot of looping on the Firewatch soundtrack. But actually, what's funny is that's the most interactive soundtrack I've done. That's the soundtrack that's actually the most reactive to player input of any soundtrack I've recorded, and that was because I was also the person who implemented it, because I worked on that game as a designer as well. I get the answer to sort of how we did it isn't very interesting, I suppose. It's just, a bunch of technical stuff about how you make analog stuff loop well in a way that's convincing, but not really worth explaining. But motivationally, that I really thought it was important to have a soundtrack that sounded like it was made by human hands, as opposed to something that is either synthetic or just so big and overwhelming that it sort of drowns itself out almost.
That's the character that an acoustic guitar adds to a soundtrack.
Well, that's what I was trying to do.
I want to get into that a little bit more.
Handcrafted, totally. I mean, I think that's a sound. I think there's been a lot of sorry, Brandon, I'll let you talk in a moment. I just wanted to point something out that when he said handcrafted, that reminded me. feel as though there have been a lot of games with sort of handcrafted aesthetics and with a lot with sort of painterly visual styles. But what's interesting is that often the soundtrack that goes along with that is very electronic or not necessarily chip tunes, but often very sort of synthetic soundtracks that have a sort of cutesy feel and things like that. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I do think it's nice when video game soundtracks themselves can sound very human in scale and sort of handcrafted.
I have two questions. I don't know if we have time for this, but
We got time.
the first one is how do you deal with like the thing that happens with strings when you move your fingers and it goes and like
Yeah, the fret noise. Yeah,
the fret noise? I do want to hear that probably once, but I don't want to hear it again in the same
yeah,
spot, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely. There is some of that in the Firewatch soundtrack, and at the
Right.
time I had this very intentional attitude of like I'm not gonna just take that all out. And now I feel very mixed about it. Sometimes when I am confronted with that music, sometimes I get really annoyed at myself for leaving some of that stuff in there. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Probably if I were doing it again, I would try to get even more technically in depth and have some sort of multiple variants of the loop and have it randomized or something. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go that deep at the time.
Someday.
And the other thing is, we're actually working on a semi-analog soundtrack right now, and it's interesting because we have a multi-instrumentalist who is doing this soundtrack. He's doing things like recording guitar live, recording fretless bass live, but leaving those breathing spaces for where it will loop,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing. But we're also trying to work with a 70-year-old man who composed music on analog synthesizers in the 70s.
cool.
And how to explain to this man how to loop
Right.
this stuff with like this analog equipment that I just have no idea. Well, we'll never find out.
You'll never know though, because that's time.
No, let's do another minute on this.
Okay, another minute it goes.
I was just going to say, I don't have a huge amount of experience with analog synth, but I think a lot of them still have sort of metronome or timekeeping
Yeah,
component, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, as long as it's strictly to a beat, you should be able to, it's pretty common in music to have sections that repeat. Like that in
Sure.
itself is not an alien concept at all. So as long as you have that, as long as you have a start point that basically ends up where the end point is because something's repeated, just, even having play the thing 3 times and the middle one is your loop, you
Yeah.
you can do clever copying and pasting and editing in audio editing software to make that sound like a good solid loop. I mean, I think that should be totally achievable.
That's probably what we're gonna wind up doing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay,
Alright.
next question.
Okay. What's better in video games, elevators or stairs?
Oh heck.
What about ladders?
And ladders.
I'll throw ladders in there.
That ladder in Metal Gear Solid 3 that you climb up forever.
Oh yeah,
and
the
then it plays
platonic
the
ideal
music.
of ladders.
That's the best. That's one of the best things that's ever happened in a video game.
The problem with this whole question is that Elevator Action Returns is a whole video game where elevators totally rule, and they're integral to
That's
the
true.
entire experience.
Here's something about some elevator action, right? Both the returns version and the original version. It's not really the elevators that are most enjoyable about that game, right? It's the doors, right? The doors are the most fun.
But I like crushing people, crushing people in those elevators. Like if
I
you
like
can,
popping into a door and then popping back out.
I mean that's good too. But like if you can trick the AI into having a guy come over there and then get crushed, you're like, yeah, I did it. I returned to the elevator action. It's up for debate.
I think
So,
my vote's for doors in this question. Doors.
not the slam dunk I thought it was.
Doors is not it. It's got to be something that takes you up or down.
I guess the thing is that like game developers, at least for a long time and probably still now, they love elevators compared to stairs and ladders because stairs and ladders require animation and all this other shit. It's a huge pain in the ass to do either of those things compared to an elevator. So any game developer who has to have programmed those things or animate those things is probably going to say elevators.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ladders are absolutely the worst one from a game development standpoint. They're
Yeah.
absolutely awful.
Yeah. There's that stupid part in Nier that they couldn't even fix for the remaster in the scrap yard, whatever they call. What do they call that place, Jeffy?
The junk heap.
The junk heap. In the junk heap, there's this area where you have to jump over these these obstacles, and then there are ladders down on the other side. I think it's if you keep hitting forward, then you'll actually descend the ladder, but it's like you approach this ladder from behind and then you go down it. And the instinct is to, okay, I'm on this ladder, now I should hit down. But that makes you go back, and so you hop back off the ladder, and so you have the getting on and the getting off the ladder thing. And it was clearly such a problem, even for them, that they wound up just putting some crates next to the ladder so you could avoid interacting with it. So you could just jump on the crate instead. Like, that's how bad ladders are.
Yeah, as a child, I remember being really frustrated with the ladders in Ocarina of Time because they wouldn't let you grab it if you tried to climb the wrong side of the ladder. So I was just like constantly circling the ladder until I was trying to fit a USB dongle into a port.
It's weird how many ladders in video games as well, because how often do you climb a ladder?
Yeah, in real life.
I couldn't climb ladders for years. It was a problem. I got like a child therapist to teach you how to climb ladders.
Is that real life?
Yeah, that really happened.
I mean, I think more fundamentally, how often do you jump in walking around? I mean, the number of times
Sounds like you don't have the joie de vivre that the rest of us might.
Yeah.
I have no joie of any sort of vivre. That is true. I don't know. Are you jumping around all the time?
Yeah, but I'm not an action dude.
I mean, I usually set aside a small period of my day, for jumping. Usually maybe in the jack format, or some other sort of explosive movement based on whether my knees are up to it or not that day.
Fair enough. To the extent that most people do jump, they typically jump straight up and down. I mean, most of the times you jump, that'll be the reason. I mean, I suppose occasionally you might jump over something. That's very uncommon. But in games, if there's a jump button in the game, there is essentially no period of more than about half a second during which I'm not jumping.
That's true.
But that's that thing, right? It's like in how in Ocarina of Time, which Jaffa just mentioned, you can roll, and that's just in there because the player, if they're just running around, will be like, I'm kind of bored. I want to do something while I'm running around. So they add the roll to give you something to do every time you think I'm bored. And so I guess like in our normal lives, walking around, if we're bored, we're probably like, I'll think about something else, or oh, there's something over there. We don't think, oh, how about we cheeky wee jump right now? Just have a wee jump.
Yeah, I was gonna say stairs are sometimes pretty cool in 2D games, like whatever that Mickey game was that Traveler's Tales did on the Genesis, where they did that amazing like run up a tower stairs, and then there's also the East Book 2 when you're going up Darm Tower, and just anytime you fake a big rotating tower going upstairs in 2D, that's an achievement that is worth celebrating. I don't know if it makes stairs the best, and it probably doesn't. But
stairs are annoying in a lot of 2D games though, because you have that situation where you're like, you walk to the stairs and you're like, am I going to automatically go up them, or do I have to push up, or do I walk past them? And if you do automatically go up them, how do I walk past them? Like unless they're just like baked in, like stairs are basically a nightmare.
That's Castlevania specifically, I think.
No, there's a bunch of games with stairs, right? Like
yeah, but they don't all do that.
They don't all do, but some do it.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
Yeah. The weirdest stairs in video games to me are in the Telltale Batman games, where if you ever approach any staircase, even if it's like a tiny drop from one level of elevation to another, it goes into a cutscene where you have to watch Batman walk up or down the stairs before you take control of him.
They're hiding loading, but
yeah, they could not solve him climbing stairs naturally from any angle.
Yeah. But they're probably hiding loading of a new zone.
That's entirely plausible.
Heck, new zones.
So, speaking of comic books, I've got the Suicide Squad on the brain today. So I've got to ask you, which 6 C-list video game villains would you recruit for a government Black Ops team?
Oh, nice. Okay. C-list, though. So Dr. Eggman's out.
No, he's a household name.
Yeah, got it. Oh, again, I'm getting a phone call from my good friend Scam Likely. Probably going to pick that one up.
That's a good one.
That's a good one, yeah.
Yeah, Scam Likely's in there, probably. Okay, let's start by identifying some C-list video game villains, if we even can. Like, who's the villain in Gex? Somebody, probably.
That's a good question.
Is Dr. Muto? Who's that? He's in Crash Bandicoot?
Yeah, he sucks, though. Like, I don't want him on my gang.
Yeah,
like, is the gag they're all going to die pretty quickly? In which case, we could have Dr. Muto.
Oh, you're not going to believe this, but the villain in Gex is named Rez.
Oh, I think I kind of knew that. Okay. Isn't the villain in Vector Man like Raster or something like that? It's some sort of other little reference to something. The hardest part of this is who are the villains
right
that we can even choose from.
Yeah, C-list makes it kind of hard because, like, if I'm thinking of like villains that I think that are like lame, like I'm like, Wesker, but then he's not C-list, right? People would consider him like really high tier.
So you might want to think of villains from less popular video games that you know well. Yeah, I've got
one. Well, I mean, that's what I've been trying to do, but it's hard to remember the villains. I've got one, which is my own game, Gunhouse. the final villain is Peter Molyneux.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What can he bring to the table of the Black Ops team?
Well, so in this case, Peter Molyneux is he's a huge robot. So
Yeah.
he's got that going for him. He can shoot missiles and he eats children. And he's got a turtleneck. So that's what he's got. I mean
That'll come in handy.
and he's still Peter Molyneux also. He could probably talk his way out of a situation by making you feel sad about your dog. So, okay, that's one.
Yeah, that's one. We got one on the board. Robot Peter Molyneux. And you did it by going to your own game, which is kind of cheating. But
yeah, well, we had to start somewhere.
I am such the wrong person to be asking this kind of question. I don't even know where to begin.
We'll choose something from your game. Fire.
Oh, I suppose that game does have a villain who's incredibly low tier, I think, on the list of video game villains. Sad man hides in woods and is sad and makes you sad as well.
Yeah.
So that's what he would do on the.
Just kind of present an existential
threat. He'd sort of just be a little like kind of mad at himself and everyone and kind of make you feel bad too.
It would slowly wear you down.
Yeah.
All right, sad Firewatch man. We're a third of the way there. Matthew, you're up.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of struggling on this one too. I mean, I feel like
think of Amiga games.
Oh, Amiga games. I was trying to think of like a game where I was like, who's the villain in
Zool?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like all these games, like that's nothing. Did you even get to the final boss in those games? Like, was there a final boss? You know, like yeah, I cannot. I'm really struggling here, guys.
I'm trying to look up who the Zool villain is, and it's not that easy because
of Ghostbusters.
Because nobody cares. Yeah, because of Ghostbusters, and
I mean, Zool's coming back, right? You saw that, right? That,
did.
There's like a new updated version coming on Steam. I think I sort of half read about it that it was like maybe like Sumo's like their academy of people who are just getting into games are making it maybe, which is
it's Sumo that's doing it.
Yeah,
right. Maybe our third team member is Chupa Chups then.
Yeah, Chupa Chups. Sure.
I mean, well, are they that evil? I mean, don't people like those?
It'll give you cavities.
Cavities are bad.
Yeah, for lack of absolutely any other answers.
All right, we're doing real well on this question. Why don't we call it here and take a quick break so we can gather our heads?
Okay, it's a good idea.
I have a crappy villain that I can mention if we want to just tack that on as if I said it.
Yeah, let's do it.
The serial killer from Heavy Rain.
Oh, that's a good one.
The problem is, and this is spoiler territory, but you should play this game because it's absolutely garbage, it's hilarious garbage, is that you play that character and you could see his thoughts. So that means that anytime you're holding his thoughts, he's very consciously not thinking about the fact that he's the villain, which I find really, really funny. And also that whole game makes no sense anyway, but the villain in that game sucks. Everything about that game sucks, but it's kind of an amazing experience.
Welcome back to the Insert Credit Show. It's time for us to go into the Dirtbag.
Oh, no.
Every week, I take one question submitted by one of our kind and generous benefactors at patreon.com/insertcredit. You can subscribe at any level to get access to the question submission form, get access to our regular episodes 1 day early.
Oh, a day early?
One day early. And you can also get...
You mean like before other people get it?
Before anyone else who is not subscribed to patreon.com/insertcredit.
Oh, there's people who aren't subscribed to it and they get it sometime.
They typically get it on Tuesday.
I'm trying to figure this out. Okay, so they get it Tuesdays, but then the people who do subscribe to the website get it a day before that.
Yeah, Monday.
Pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's. I'm not actually not a subscriber. I gotta be honest, because I'm on this show, so it seems ridiculous to pay to be on it. It's crazy because on that day, when the 1 day early people get it, it's like when there's a big sports game you're trying to watch, you have to block all of the trending topics, you have to hide everything on your Twitter because people are just talking so much detail. And there's so many show spoilers.
Yeah,
a lot of spoilers.
If you want to not have to block all those trending topics and everything else that you're just all frustrated by, just become a pay pig. Like all these other people.
Exactly.
Just start spend.
This is essentially emotional blackmail you've constructed. You're essentially saying you have to pay us this money, otherwise your experience will be ruined by people who are paying us.
It's a very dark path.
It gets worse, Chris Remo.
I don't really believe that it could be worse.
Well, I'm about to blow your mind because if you subscribe, you also get access to a bonus episode every month that no one else can listen to.
In a way,
Yeah.
that's almost better
Yeah,
because at least their experience of it won't be ruined by all the people who are paying the
that's
money.
true. That
Suppose
is
that's
true.
true. Yeah.
But you get both barrels of it by just sending us like $3 a month. Anyway, this question comes from Gaagaagiins, who asks, what is the best auto-scrolling section of all time? Which is to specifically say an auto-scrolling section in a game which itself is not auto-scrolling. So like rail shooters don't count.
Okay, so that takes out my my car jokes, which I was about to make about auto
This
scrolling.
program requires a sort of encyclopedic knowledge of video games that I do not possess. I feel
I forgot to
ill prepared.
tell you that you needed to bone up on your video game encyclopedia before you got in here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Chris, what's the best auto-scrolling crossword you've ever done?
Oh God, if only I had experienced such a thing. That actually sounds extremely my
I mean, that
speed.
just strikes me as a really good like game jam idea, you know, like sort of like crossword that
Does,
sort of
yeah.
scrolls on screen and you have
Oh,
to like
that's
type
kinda
it in before it goes
cool.
off screen, you
Yeah,
know?
that does sound that is a great game jam concept.
Crossword of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I like it. Yeah. Like it doesn't give you what you're supposed to type in, right? It gives you the cryptic clue. I mean, I can't do crosswords at all, and you have to keep working it out and then typing it in. That'd be amazing.
And then we could port it to the Dreamcast.
Love
Oh,
the
that's
Dreamcast.
very much that sounds extremely appropriate.
Yep, that's what it should be. Okay, auto-scrolling sections. You know, I don't like a lot of those auto-scrolling sections because quite often it's like, okay, we're going along, we're having fun, but now the wall is pushing you from behind, and if you and this is when you wind up dying clipping into something because like they put a power up right behind this wall where like if you do it fast enough you can get it and otherwise you die. A lot of those suck, but I think the one in Symphony of the Night is pretty good, or is it in Rondo of Blood first? Well, either way, the one where you're getting chased by a big half of a wolf, and so like the screen starts to auto scroll. The visible danger is behind you, and it's like if I touch that back half of the screen, I will die. I mean, it's been done in other games, but I feel like that one they successfully presented me with something that I want to get away from. It's not like a wall of lava that I have to escape, which is kind of boring. It's like a big beast. So that one's pretty good.
Yeah, I find those type of sections, you know, pretty like the ones that stand in my mind for some reason right now are like the ones in like Super Mario Brothers 3, which is still my favorite Super Mario Brothers, but like the auto-scrolling levels are like not the most enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
Like even
They always
the
stress me out.
like the ones like on the battleships are pretty good just because they're so intense, but like the other ones where you're just like on a platform and shit, I hate those ones where it's like you're on a platform, don't fall off the platform. Also, stuff's moving. Like I never enjoy that. But I kind of feel it's like a cheat. Like something I actually love in games is when you're like on a highway jumping across cars where there's scrolling happening, but you're actually not being forced to scroll, right? It's just like the background's constantly scrolling because you're like fighting dudes like in Strider 2 or some of that. You're like fighting dudes on top of cars or I don't know, Dragon Ninja and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of games that just do that. I love that type of visual, or being on trains and things like that. Anything with like a scrolling background where you're like on a moving vehicle, I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's good. It doesn't fit the brief really because it doesn't force you to scroll, but those are very good. There's some games we didn't specifically say side scrolling, so like
No, just auto scrolling.
yeah. So in Sonic 2, I actually quite like that tube minigame that they got, and that's an auto scroller. Like you're always running forward and you're dodging things, and it's a little annoying, but compared to many auto scrollers, it's a lot more fun. And you have to follow a path to get all the rings and things. I kind of like it. So
I mean, I suppose on that basis, then like one of the most fun auto scrollers is like Guitar Hero, right? Like
no, but that's all the time.
That's
that's an
true.
auto scroller. Oh, auto scrolling section. Yeah, I suppose you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it don't have to be part of the game. It can't be fully the game. Yeah.
They made this not so easy. This question.
They had her number.
Yeah.
I'll say this, even though it's not really something I can recommend. Like the Battletoads I played most was Battletoads on the Game Boy, and the Game Boy Battletoads auto scroller section where you're in the little like ship. It's one of those things where it's like there's like a line of spikes going towards you, right? And as it starts, you're like going up to the top of the screen to dodge, down to the bottom of the screen. You've got like a window of time, right? But as it gets faster and faster, you get to the point where you no longer really have any time to make the decision. You just have to get it exactly. You have to hit the top, then get to the bottom, hit the top, then get to the bottom as it goes. And like, although as a child, when I had time to like master something, getting really good at that was like, it became so unbelievably like not rewarding. You know that sort of like frisson you get from doing something like perfectly well,
Yeah.
almost without thinking. That level is always in my mind. The little side-scrolling shooter section where you have to dodge the spikes as like one of the ultimate like frisson, and that's not a smeary Game Boy screen.
Yeah, I buy that.
Battletoad. Okay.
Yeah, sorry guys. Battletoads is a bad shit answer.
That's
like
an
terrible.
answer.
No,
Yeah.
I fully understand the angle from which you took that, though. So I'll also throw in Adventures of Batman and Robin has a shooter section, which is
Yes. Okay. When and how do video games successfully recontextualize frustrating tropes as interesting?
Jesus Christ.
Let's think about that one for a second. But I guess it's it's like an easy example would be Super Crate Box, where opening crates for weapons is kind of annoying in a lot of games, or it is at least tropey and something to be made fun of. But in Super Crate Box, you're awaiting the new crate because it's like maybe that's got a much better weapon in it, and the crates are fewer and further between. So I think that's an example at the very least to get us started.
That's what I'm going for here.
What was that sound?
That was a cat.
Wow.
I was like, Chris Remo, you really don't like this question.
That's such a good meow. That's such a perfect meow.
See if I can get the cat closer to the mic. It really doesn't want to become closer to the mic.
Cat, come over here. That's how you get cats to come closer, right? You just go like, hey cat.
You go, cat, come over here.
And then they just do it.
Come on. Come on.
Is that a real
This question is now about Chris's cat.
Yeah.
It's actually not my cat. I'm cat sitting at the moment.
Oh.
Now she's sitting on my lap, but she's not making any sounds. I guess she got what she wanted. She's not going to make any meows now.
I can hear the purring. Is she purring?
Can you hear that? I can't because I have headphones covering my,
I had to go
ears.
Oh,
I hear her.
Yeah. This is amazing.
I hear this cat.
You got to post some pictures of the cat in the chat when you have some time, Chris.
Please send us some cat pictures.
Yeah, no problem.
Our listeners need to know what you're experiencing.
Yeah, what you were saying there, Brandon, was making me think more of sort of things like, I don't know why it's the first game to my mind, but like, you remember Work Time Fun in the PSP? Like, games where you do like repetitive, boring things, and then it's sort of like, that's kind of the gag, and then that sort of led me into the line of all the clicker games, right? So, Cookie Clicker and Universal Paperclips or whatever, where you're doing like kind of like but then maybe they're not so like based in video game tropes as they just are like, here's a boring repetitive thing to do, like that we're subverting somehow. So maybe that doesn't count.
I guess Cow Clicker, which we had Ian Bogost on the other day or the other week, does count as, it is certainly a subversion of what was then a trope. So I think that at the very least it counts. Another thing, no, never mind, it's wrong. I was going down a Street Fighter path that I realized I was incorrect about. So, the end. Resident Evil 2 Remake. I forget if I've talked about this before, but they put a literal monster closet in there for the first time. You opened a locker and a monster flopped out of it, or I think it was a dead person. But like, Resident Evil has always been accused of having this monster closet idea where you're rounding a corner and suddenly the dog jumps out of the window or whatever kind of spooky thing happens. And this time they were just like, all right, fine, you're going to accuse us of it. Here it is. This is a literal monster closet. And I lolled at it. Is it subversion if you really just double down on the thing people say you're doing?
I think yes. Okay. I think it is.
Okay, well, good. We'll count it. I don't know if this is a good example or an example I like, but those masocore platformers like I Want to Be the Guy, etc., those are, their whole thing is subverting tropes and expectations. Like that if I jump on this platform, it will fall, but then the third of them goes up and smashes me into the ceiling.
That's true, but it's kind of the opposite, where it's making a kind of pleasant thing in a game annoying, as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I'm impressed by the extent to which you adhere to the parameters that have been outlined in these questions.
That's the show.
I'm impressed that you are not constantly subverting them. You seem to really respect the question as posed.
I don't know how true that is. I mean, like, I made us talk about ladders in the stairs.
I'm talking about Brandon.
True. Right. Okay. Yeah, Brandon's pretty sticks to the rules, I suppose.
Yeah. Matthew's an agent of chaos.
Agent of chaos. I love it.
He's going to tell you how he got those scars.
I feel like I have to be the representative. We don't have Frank. Tim used to be on this show. we don't have those guys. I feel like I have to be the one who's like, okay, we're gonna
We
at
gotta
least
lock
a
it
little
down.
bit
Right.
respect the.
And that's what Jaffe was for.
That's true.
I was being serious. I respect it. I meant it genuinely.
Still sounds disingenuous.
Yeah, basically what we're saying, Brandon, is you're a boring nerd.
I love it.
All right. Now I want you to review the concept of crossword puzzles based on their graphics and game mechanics, as if you were reviewing a video game.
I assume this is meant for me.
It's meant for
Yeah,
everybody.
this one's on you,
But
buddy.
it's all of us. I think that graphically it could use a brush up. It's a bit dated. There have been many iterations of the crossword across the years, and I feel like none has really taken that big leap that we might expect for the next generation.
Fans of the genre might still find plenty to like.
Yeah.
As an agent of chaos, I actually just want to ask you, Chris, like you've been doing these videos about crosswords, and I'm not really a crossword guy, so I'd really actually like to know from your perspective what it is that's so genuinely interesting about crosswords that you're now doing a video series about them.
Yeah, well, I'm going to take that opportunity to explicitly pitch my own thing, which is my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Chris Remo, where I do the New York Times crossword every day on a video. So go watch that. Go give that a shot if you think you'd like to watch something extremely low-key and slow and arguably boring, but I don't think it's boring because I actually like crosswords. And the reason I do, to answer your question, I suppose that's sort of a midpoint between trivia and wordplay. I suppose just sort of general facility with language that I find personally appealing. I mean, I like all those things, and the New York Times style of crossword is, I think, a reasonably good compromise of all of them. Whereas a cryptic crossword, for instance, skews very hard towards extreme, extreme wordplay and sort of arcane rule sets that are self-referential. Then there are other sort of traditional general knowledge style crosswords that are more about arbitrary trivia and less about wordplay. And the sort of New York Times style crossword I find to be a really enjoyable midpoint between those things. I mean, that doesn't explain why someone who doesn't enjoy trivia and wordplay and vocabulary would find a crossword interesting. I guess they wouldn't. So the sort of the prerequisites, I suppose, are that you find those things to some extent interesting or enjoyable. But I do. So I've been doing the crossword every day for many years, and now I do it on the internet.
Because I know a few people who are quite into crosswords, and so you're saying that the New York Times isn't really a traditional cryptic crossword, because my understanding of cryptic crosswords
It's not a cryptic. No.
Yeah, because a cryptic crossword is like there's a rule set, right? You look at the question, and then from the question you understand, oh, this one is like a word play. I have to reverse this word, and that'll teach me what something else is. So how does the New York Times crossword sit in a middle ground between something as esoteric as that, which I just can't make heads or tails of, even the most basic ones, and general knowledge trivia one?
It is a general knowledge trivia crossword. So it is that. It is it's not like a cryptic crossword. I guess what I mean is occasional wordplay in it. There will occasionally be times when a clue uses a sort of counterintuitive meaning of a word that, in the context of the clue, you would read it one way, but actually, in order to understand the meaning of the clue, you have to read it a different way. That's the kind of thing cryptic crosswords do. But as you said, cryptic crosswords push it to a level of extremity. They have their own internal rule set that you have to sort of learn before you can really even solve one single cryptic crossword clue. And the New York Times crossword is not like that. It is essentially a general knowledge trivia crossword, but there's a playfulness to it that I think a lot of general knowledge crosswords are fairly perfunctory, not necessarily very playful or I don't know, joyful in the way that they're clued. I find the New York Times crossword it'll often have clever themes that tie into some sort of meta wordplay that's threaded throughout the puzzle. I think just the quality of writing of the clues is high in terms of its internal consistency and, I don't know, entertainment value. I just think it's a very well constructed crossword with a sort of high standard of quality that makes it more enjoyable than a strict trivia quiz, but it's much more approachable than an incredibly esoteric cryptic.
So the problem I have with the New York Times aspect is, I mean, with this particular crossword, is every time you mention the New York Times and it being like clever or having a clever theme to it, I think about being in in a movie theater in Berkeley, California, surrounded by a bunch of rich people from the hills.
Yeah,
who,
I know exactly what you mean.
When a twist happens in the movie, they're all like, "Oh."
Yeah. It's so funny you say that because I've literally said that exact thing and used Berkeley, California precisely
Nice.
as my example, the being in the Berkeley, California independent movie theater. I mean, I've had that experience and used that experience to describe that sensation to people on many occasions. So I know what you mean. And yeah, I don't know why I don't find that off-putting. I think because stakes are low. I don't really know how to put it exactly.
Well, also you're
but
doing it by yourself. You don't have
exactly. It's not a performative thing. I mean, I say
Right.
that now that I'm literally performing solving the crossword every day in a video on the internet.
I really want to ask more questions about crosswords, though, but I guess I'll have to wait.
We could do it after.
All right.
Okay.
I think we should give crosswords an 8 out of 10.
A solid but not spectacular.
Solid,
Yeah.
man. It's a 7.
Yeah, it's not as good as a 7 out of 10, but it's also not as good as a 9 out of 10.
That's true. That's exactly true. What are your favorite video game hoaxes?
Video game what now?
Hoaxes.
Oh yes. Okay, sorry. This is Chris Remo. This is very specifically because you're on this show. It is related to the fact I'm just going to tell this story of when you were working at Gama Sutra, and yes, you know where this is going. And the iPad was announced, and people were like, "The iPad is so big." And so I forget if you had the correct image of Steve Jobs holding an iPad first, but you then photoshopped the iPad to be slightly larger.
Yeah, to big enough to like cover his whole head.
Most of his head and just the top of his head was there.
Just the top of his head peeking up above the iPad that he was holding out in front of him.
Yeah, and I forget if you gradually made it larger over the day.
No, I didn't. Although there was a different thing I did on Kama Sutra images that did involve gradually altering an image over time, but it wasn't this.
What was that?
We can tell that after we finish this story. So,
I mean, well, you can finish this story because that's as far as I got with it.
The thing was, I had photoshopped this image of Steve Jobs holding the iPad to make the iPad huge and cover his face, just because I thought it was funny. And I dropped it into our, not a Slack, but whatever predated Slack, Bandcamp. It might have been Campfire. Yeah, that sounds right. Bandcamp is where I sell my soundtracks. Please buy my soundtracks from chrisremo.bandcamp.com.
You just dropped it into Bandcamp.
Yeah, I dropped it into our work chat, and I wasn't intending it as a prank. I just thought it was funny for us. And then our boss, I don't remember if it was Simon Carlos or Chris Kraft, but one of them,
I think it was Simon.
I think it was Simon as well. Said, "Oh, great, thanks. I needed this image," and grabbed it and slapped it on the public news story on the website that accompanied our story. And the
funny thing is, nobody noticed. All the
people noticed,
commenters were like, "That's big."
Exactly. Yes, they noticed, but they didn't notice in the sense of noticing that the image had been fabricated. They noticed in the sense of it becoming one more sort of point in the war of people who were in favor of Apple versus people who were not,
right,
and using the size of the iPad. And you had Apple sort of apologists in there saying things like, no, it's just a perspective. It's actually the perfect size. You can see because blah, 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 blah. And it was up there for several hours, despite my not having intended this to happen. Once it had happened, I was extremely pleased. And so I'd let it sit there. A few hours later, Simon came over to my desk and sort of stopped in front of my desk, and he kind of looked at me and he said, he sort of just stopped and let it hang there, and I just burst out laughing.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh," and he went back to his desk and updated the story.
Incredible.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite thing I ever did.
Like gamesindustry.biz or whatever also used our image because they were always stealing our stuff.
Probably so.
Yeah.
The other thing I did that was the gradual thing. There was this image of Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision.
Yeah.
It's an official image. It's the strangest thing, and it's on this bright red textured background. He's sort of grinning like an elf or something, and he's tilted about 15 degrees. So he's got this grinning face against this bright red, almost hellish backdrop, and he's a little bit tilted. It's been rotated for some reason, and I used that image every time there was a story about Activision or Bobby Kotick that was published on the website. But every time I used it, I rotated it about an additional 10 degrees. So over the course of several months, eventually, we were running stories about Bobby Kotick where he was like poking in at a perpendicular angle from off the side of the page. And I, for some reason, found that to be I amused myself immensely with that stupid gag.
This is how we knew collectively that you were not sticking around for the long haul at Gama Sutra, because this was clearly what was occupying the majority of your time. Amusing yourself with that rather than doing hard reporting. But you know what? In the long run, I'm happy about it.
Oh, same.
Okay, what other video game hoaxes were there?
For some reason, as a child, this one really creeped me out. And there was no reason for it to creep me out as bad, because it was the idea that I think in Mortal Kombat, or probably Mortal Kombat 2, there was a ninja called Ermac, which maybe had like Red, Jack, or some of that. But the idea was that no one had programmed him, and he just like appeared sometimes, so you had to fight him. And I don't know why the no one programmed him thing as a child really just creeped me out. The idea that like that just happened. There was now another guy in Mortal Kombat that could fight you. Like I could still feel it in my bones. This a weird childish fear of Ermac for some reason, but it's just obviously, even if it existed, it's like, it's like in Pokemon Missing No, like it's just like a bit of a counter went over something, so this character appears, right? But like as a child, it just freaked me out for some reason. Don't know why.
Is the whole situation with Blue whatever studios where it's like, maybe they're making a Kojima game, maybe they're not. Is that a hoax, or is that an accident that's unfortunate for them? I legitimately can't tell. Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
No.
And it's at this point, it seems like they're taking the piss, because the last picture they posted, it looked like there's a guy in an eye patch behind the text. It looked like Snake or whatever like that, right? Or Punish Snake, or which one of the snakes, right? And it was just like, either this is some sort of weird Kojima thing, or you're really leaning into this, because they keep acting like they're really like wounded. Listen, guys, we're just a tiny little indie studio. But each time they do stuff, it seems intentional. So
Yeah.
I would lean towards like somebody playing a dangerous game, whether or not it's Kojima. I don't think it's probably him, but it's somebody fucking about.
Yeah, I'm losing patience on that particular.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
feature.
That's not one of my favorites. This is the blank video game section of the podcast, where in the tradition of the question, what is the Citizen Kane of video games? We hold the medium of video games up to other examples of art and culture.
Yeah, Chris Remo, just so you know, this is the part where we use our encyclopedic knowledge of video games to answer some questions. So, if you were waiting for that point, it has arrived.
Here we are. So now is when I ask you, what is the waiting for Godot of video game?
Is that how you pronounce it? I always said Godot.
Every single production I've seen or heard of the play has the actors pronouncing it Godot.
Godot.
Yeah, and usually an Irish accent for some reason. I guess because of the author and all that, but like he never wrote them as Irish. But yeah, they usually say Godot
All right.
in an Irish
there you
accent,
go.
which I'm not going to do.
Haven't you been doing that this whole time, Matthew?
How fucking dare you. I'm going to slap your
good
tits
God.
off.
You're lucky he's half a world away from you.
Yeah, exactly.
The idea here is like you're waiting for a payoff that never arrives, sort of. I mean, I guess that's oversimplification of it, or that the point.
In Metal Gear Solid 3 where you climb a ladder.
Yeah, that's right. It's in Metal Gear Solid 3 where you climb a ladder. It's good. Your one point of reference has come in handy twice.
Yeah.
That's the one scene of a video game I've played.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, usually whenever we're pressed for examples, we end up defaulting to Hideo
Scene from
Kojima,
Metal Gear 3 where you climb the ladder.
Sonic the Hedgehog, or Peter Molyneux. Those are the three things we do.
And it's tough for me because I have hardly played any Kojima games, and I have definitely not played any Peter Molyneux game for more than like 5 minutes. So I'm flying blind when we're talking about these things. But I got to bring him up anyway.
You've probably spent more time playing Peter Molyneux inside of a game that you made than you have playing games by Peter Molyneux.
100%. Absolutely.
You might be unique among humans in that regard.
I might be, although there are a few people that have played Gunhouse for literally days worth of
fair
time,
enough.
like 400 hours, which is
You have metrics
wild.
so you know that from sort of telemetry data and stuff.
We don't capture telemetry data. We only know it when people email us and they're like,
I
look,
see.
I made it to day 1000. And I'm like,
Wow,
holy
yeah.
Lord, you should calm down. No, I don't say that to them. I think they should calm right the heck up. Just keep going with it. Okay, so waiting for Godot. This is not the right answer, but there was SNK versus Capcom Card Fighters Clash 2, which came out on the DS.
Okay.
launched with a game-breaking bug past which you could not progress, and the game just soft locked.
Oh, that's good.
But it's not unique in doing that. Other games have done that, but it is, it wasn't patchable because it was a DS game, so they had to basically recall and reissue, which
An incompletable game is a good answer for that.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have the original copy of it, and they only let you return it for a short window. And I obviously bought it secondhand, I guess, because the person was like, I have a broken game. So it's quite annoying, to be honest, to have one of the busted versions of it and not be able to do anything about it. Not that it's very good. It's not Car Fighters Clash 2, by the way, it's just Car Fighters Clash DS, because 2 is on the NGPC.
2 already exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember whether I have the one that you can get through because I didn't like it very much. It just didn't keep going with it.
It's totally busted design-wise anyway.
Yeah.
And I believe... This is really boring, actually. Why are people going to listen to me talking about this? I believe that the actual part where you can't get past is actually in the post-game anyway. So I think you can get to the end of that game normally. Wow. It's just you can't get everything. But I might be wrong on that one.
That would be rough.
Yeah, every time one of these questions comes up, and if I'm listening or whatever like that, I usually think about how the thing that's been discussed is just something that people know the name of, but don't know anything about any more deeply. Like Waiting for Godot is like a perfect example of something where like it's largely like just used as sort of a punchline, sort of a reference point, rather than experience as the work that it is. Like I think one of the most interesting things about Waiting for Godot is that people often think like, oh, it must be some sort of allegory about waiting for God, right? But Samuel Beckett wrote in French originally, and obviously the word for God is not God in French, right? So there's the original version of the play, there's no implication of that in the way that it's written. And so often, like, it's just basically like often to me, it's like, imagine a game that lots of people have talked about and referenced but have never played. That's usually my answer for these questions. So it would almost be my answer for something like this, Okay,
well, I think one that might fit both things is PT, because that's not beatable. And most people haven't played it, but they have talked about it. And it circles back with that hoax thing we were talking about earlier.
All right. So originally, my lightning round was going to be a kind of encyclopedia-y type topic. So I'm changing that at the last minute because that's clearly not going over well in this episode. We're going to go to one of our old standbys, a game called Name Design. This is where I give you the name of something, and you have to design a video game about it based on the title alone. This week, we're doing all titles of Jodi Picoult novel.
Who?
Jodi Picoult.
Jodi Picoult. Thank you.
Yeah, how can you get Godot right? Like, screw that one up, Jaffe. Ugh.
I did kind of have to switch this out in the last minute, so please give me some credit here. So I'm going to go through these book titles, and you have to tell me what video game that would be, just based on the name. Kind of similar to what Mathew was just saying about the video game questions, how we just kind of take the name and extrapolate from there. We're going to start with Songs of the Humpback Whale.
It's a rhythm game, and it's on the Wii, and you have to hold the Wiimote like a, what's that goddamn thing that you get closer to and further away from, and it makes sounds? You know what I'm talking about?
Doppler effect?
No. It's the theremin. There we go.
Yeah.
It's a Wii theremin game where you're trying to go.
Good.
Oh, I like
and
that.
then
Really
you're
good.
doing the whale song.
Oh yeah, you have to get the noise just right to draw the humpback whale towards you.
Now that you've said that, I almost can't believe there wasn't some usage of the Wii remote as a theremin. That's
What
Did
the hell?
Wii Music not do that?
I mean, the theremin is not the most popular of instruments, but still.
Since
I mean,
when?
Genuinely, no one played Wii Music, so I mean,
That's
it could have
true.
been a theremin, but no one would know.
Your next game is Harvesting the Heart.
Oh god, it's a trauma center mixed with It's okay, so it's like Harvest Moon, where you've inherited a surgery room from your grandpa who likes he misses the old-fashioned country doctor style of surgery where there's no anesthetic, etc. And so you have to learn on the fly how to harvest hearts from. You learn that you're not very good at saving people, so you harvest their hearts and use them for other purposes.
Oh no, but it's so cute, right? Because when you put the people to sleep, they get a big snot bubble, like just like the cows. So it's like super adorable, and you can brush their hair and shit. Like, this would own.
Yeah. Plain Truth.
This is a 9/11 truther.
Oh no!
No, I was gonna say it's more like what was that game? You know, where you go to the apartment and there's a couple there and they're having a fight.
Yeah,
You know the
yeah.
one?
Oh, facade.
Facade, right? It's a facade. You get onto you're the husband or the wife in that relationship. You get on the plane, and as the plane just takes off, she's like, "I'm leaving you." And then you have to deal with that situation of all the truth coming about the reality relationship. But you as the player don't really understand what's actually happening. So you're trying to stumble your way through this like very difficult emotional situation while trapped in the plane for 8 hours.
Yeah. And you're trying to stop from falling asleep.
I think that's it. My Sister's Keeper.
I mean, I'm trying not to make this a kidnapping game.
Oh,
Like Ape Escape, but with sisters.
no, your sister is the striker in a hot football team, right? And it's all about your relationship with the goalkeeper, you know, because you've fallen in love with the goalkeeper. I'm writing a lot of romance-style video games right now. I'm not sure what's going on. I suppose the previous one wasn't sort of romance, but more emotional video games. It's more I'm into now, I guess. So it's all about your relationship with the goalkeeper, and there's like fun football sequences when you're not doing the visual novel part.
You know, I was thinking it could be like, remember we played Deer Boys on the Super Nintendo?
Yeah, like that.
You do manage the relationships between these people, but also you have like a turn-based RPG-ish kind of soccer situation going on. I think
because I think it's kind of like this, right? Where it's like, to make your sister happy, the goalkeeper has to be very engaged with the sport, but you also want to be very engaged with you. So it's all about managing those bars to make him succeed at the sport and your sister succeed at the sport, while also growing your love at a natural pace.
You know, I love managing bars. It's true.
I love it.
Yeah. Your next game is Salem Fall.
All right. Deadly Premonition.
Okay.
The end. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, it's a Bennett Body style escape game where you play a witch running away from a pyre, and you just have to like stop from falling over. Do you know what I mean? While they chase you and try and burn you. You know?
That's very good.
I was thinking the direction you were going to go is that you're a witch escaping from persecution, but you're going down the falls in a barrel, like in Niagara Falls or whatever they used to do back in the day.
Oh.
Either way.
Yeah.
Either way. The 10th Circle.
Game about drawing circles. You gotta do 10 of them.
I was gonna say earlier how clever you were with these.
Yeah.
And now I feel even more convinced of that.
It's a crossword game where the 10th letter is unknown, and you have less than 26 chances to guess it right.
That's kind of yeah. I was gonna say that the bit where the 10th letter is unknown is kind of like crosswords, but that's also true of the rest of the letters.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's some way to turn this into a crossword game where like the 10th letter of each of these prompts is like...
Absolutely. Sometimes the crossword will have sort of circles on some letters and it means something once you figure out what they are, and then that's totally.
And that leads you to the murderer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say 10th circle, right? So there's 7 circles of hell, so I assume this is about the circle that is 3 circles on from those 7 circles.
Okay.
So I guess it's like some sort of extremely super helly hell.
Yeah, it's Dante's Inferno 3.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dante's Inferno. That doesn't really work.
Dante's Inferno. Yeah, I'm giving you the point just for that. In fact, I'm calling the whole game. Mathew, you're our winner of the episode. Congratulations.
Yay!
Whoa.
Yeah, you get to write a question for next week's episode. I'll be in touch.
Love writing questions, babies.
This is the point. If you'd like to plug anything you're working on or just recommend a piece of culture to our listeners, you can go ahead and do that. Unless you took an opportunity earlier in the show to somehow shill the thing.
You can still do it.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, I have 2 things to recommend. One is a Jackie Chan movie called To Kill with Intrigue. The movie, it's not actually that good, but I found it compelling because, okay, so this is from director Lo Wei when he was really in the like cash-in period of his life. Like he had Jackie Chan in this predatory contract and he couldn't get out of it. But you know, they were still making movies together. Anyway, this one is like a little bit black magic-y along with the kung fu thing, and it's got the first like yandere character that I've seen in one of these shows. Probably.
What does that mean?
It's a Japanese term for the kind of like usually female love interest that loves you and wants to kill you simultaneously. They want to do you physical harm, but they really love you. And
that's common enough that it's a whole archetype?
Yes. But it's related to like anime and manga and stuff. So it's not related to real life human beings. So there's also like tsundere, which is a much more understandable one where it's like someone who they keep you at a distance because they like you so much. But then once you break through, they're very lovey-dovey or whatever.
Sure.
That's a lot more common than this one. But anyway, the female antagonist.
Cat doesn't like that.
I know
No,
they did not like that.
no. Of this is
Well, the cat might be an example of what you just described.
Yeah, the
I mean,
cat
that
might
is-
be tsundere.
Cats are yandere.
Yeah. So there's this lady who hates Jackie Chan's family because his father eradicated her theoretically evil clan except for her, and now she's back. But she winds up liking Jackie Chan. Turns out there's a greater evil than her, and she trains him up to defeat that evil. But in the process, is like burning his face off and making him swallow hot coals and stuff. And it's just this wild kind of bizarre movie that Jackie Chan would never make ever again after that. And so there's that one. It's actually not that good though, so I shouldn't have spent so long talking about it.
You spent forever talking about it as well.
I really did. But the other one, which I'll spend less time talking about, even though it's better, is Walker, which is the first biopic I've ever seen
I
that
love
has
Walker.
complete contempt for its subject. It is a great. I didn't realize that this was from the director of Repo Man. If I had, I probably would have watched it a lot sooner. But it's basically about this guy William Walker, who is a Western imperialist dog, realistically, who he goes down to Nicaragua and installs himself as president and becomes increasingly unhinged. And it is simultaneously an allegory for what we in the U.S. were doing to Nicaragua at that time when the movie was shot in Nicaragua. So and this movie was universally hated at the time, and the director, whose name I'm blanking on, Alex Cox, was essentially blackballed from making movies after that of any kind of budget because people were like, this is such blatant propaganda, anti-US, whatever. But that's what's great about it. Like it does it so well, and it's simultaneously subversive and hitting you over the head with it at the same time. Like the first time, this is a period film shot in the 1800s, and the first time you see something like a Mercedes-Benz passing horse-drawn cart, you're like, yeah, they're really doing it over here. They're really making it. It's so good.
Yeah, the anachronisms in that movie are so funny. The scene I always remember is the part where he's like, look at this, and holds up a copy of Time magazine he's on the cover of. Really, really funny stuff.
It's so stupid, and I love it. And if you get the DVD, there is a special sequence of Alex Cox. He saved all the contemporary reviews, and he reads them to you, what people said about it at the time. It's wild stuff. Okay, that's what I got.
Just to mention though, just if anyone's wondering, I do think Alex Cox was a bit cancelled recently. I can't remember why, but yeah, I think he was a bit cancelled recently. So
dang it.
Bring that up.
Well,
yeah.
I guess I'm not massively surprised. It in like the documentary about it talks about how the Nicaraguan staff people were getting paid like 1/10 what the Americans were, and the Americans were like, we need to get paid more, but then they found out what the Nicaraguans were getting paid. And,
yeah.
That's
apologies for
great.
not remembering the context, but just to let our listeners know if they want to do the research before although Walker is amazing, but context and everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to continue the film discussion here. Kind of mention that I think at the point this podcast will be released, even not just to the one day early listeners, but to everybody, there will still be time to fund my friend Justin DeClue's Gold Ninja Video fundraiser for. Just go to goldninjavideo.com. He runs a boutique film label that releases old films that have never really been scanned or released, and also like films from kind of outsider type up and coming directors to Blu-ray. And he's doing a fundraiser right now because he's trying to raise enough money to get his own film scanner, because most of the films he's putting out just come from the type of rips he can find. So if he has to like source like a VHS from like Thailand or something to get a movie, he'll do it. But this way he'll be able to like source actual prints and then scan them. He's starting for like $20. Even just give him that, you'll get a digital copy of the Matt Farley movie Freaky Farley, which I have seen. It is incredible. It will look amazing in 4K, transferred 16mm. But there's plenty of other things to good. And this is just, if you want to support, boutique film label, if you want to get a film scanner and actually, support filmmakers and everything else, I really think that supporting the Gold Ninja Video Indiegogo is one of the best things you can do. And not just because Justin's a personal friend, because I think he's really doing great work.
That's cool.
Chris Remo, do you have anything you'd like to recommend, whether you've worked on it or not?
Well, yeah, probably But the thing that's coming to mind, this is probably the most obvious and unnecessary recommendation for this crowd, so I apologize for being this, I don't know, uninteresting. But
How dare you?
Brendan talking about Jackie Chan reminded me that I recently watched Police Story and Police Story 2 for the first time. I had never seen those films, and I was completely flabbergasted by all of the things that Jackie Chan does in those movies.
He does a lot of things in them.
Yeah, he does a lot of things, and it's incredibly. I found it plot is it's almost annoyingly dumb. They're weirdly long,
Yes.
for what those movies need to be. But some of the action set pieces are just absolutely extraordinary, and I had an extremely good time watching those movies. And I would recommend.
Certainly breaks his bones a lot
He
doing
breaks
those.
a lot of bones, entertainingly for our benefit.
I mean, he doesn't just break his bones. I always remember in the first Police Story when he goes down that string of lights in the mall.
Yes,
like he just did that.
Yes, he just did that, and because he just did that, they showed that shot in the film 3 times in a row from different angles. They just show it several times to make sure that you see that in fact he did this completely preposterous thing, and then they show it several more times again during the credits at the end.
Yeah, basically he was like, I'm just going to smash a lot of light bulbs into my hand while going down a burning rope. It was like, there's some really gnarly, badly hurt people in those police stories. In fact, most of the Jackie Chan movies. You got to give a lot of respect to those stuntmen because I have no idea how they stand up again, because in some cases, they don't.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew. I think it was Police Story where this happened. But I just watched Tiger on Beat right after that, and I can't remember if it was that one. No, I think it was Police Story 2. The lead actress, there's this bit where she's supposed to be running away from all these metal things that are falling like dominoes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Police Story 2.
So you never see her face again because she actually got hit in the head during that sequence and had to go to the hospital for the.
Oh, yeah, I think they show that in the credits.
Yeah, so she's only shown from afar or with her face off the thing, and it's tough because like the point of the whole thing was their relationship was in trouble and he was they were going to maybe
his character is a complete ass to her throughout those films. It's actually astonishing.
Oh wow. I tell you what, watch some more Hong Kong films.
Yeah, exactly. Watch some more Hong Kong movies. That's the whole deal.
I have some recommendations. They may be familiar if you've listened to this show before, but it bears repeating. I would like to recommend that if you're listening to this show on any platform where you can subscribe to or review podcasts, that you engage with us in that way to keep the algorithms pushing us upwards and forwards. You can also go to patreon.com/insertcredit, where you could become a patron to submit your own topics, get our regular episodes 1 day early.
1 day early.
I mean, what? Wow.
Yeah.
1 day early.
That pause was probably funnier than somebody saying it. That pause was so long.
It was very long.
I thought there was a lag.
I was picking myself up off the floor because I fainted.
Yeah, that's right, Chris Remo. 1 day early, and even access monthly bonus episodes.
Stop saying that.
And
I keep
other
falling off my chair.
Content. You can also join us on forums.insertcredit.com and follow us on Twitter for our own personal updates and projects. The show is at Insert Credit. I'm at Alex Jaffe. Brandon is at Necrosofty.
You know it.
Matthew Kumar is at something. He joined at the last minute.
At Matthew Kumar.
At Matthew Kumar, thank you. With one T, by the way.
1 T.
1 T
1
only.
T early.
1 T early. And Chris is at Chris Remo. This show is edited by Esper Quinn with music by Kurt Feldman. This is the point where you all say your names right after me in order. Once more, I'm Alex Jaffe.
Brandon Sheffield.
I'm Matthew Kumar.
I'm Chris Remo.
And your game has now been saved.
Nice.
It's funny, Jaffe. I wanted to say something, which is, see the end of every episode when you go, and I've got a recommendation. They always go, ooh, and then I'm like, it's the same fucking recommendations every week.
Yeah.
I literally do. I keep thinking, what's Jaffe going to again? Probably a Batman comic or something like that. It's probably what he's into. And then it's just the same old rubbish. Like,
yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm Lucy in that football.